Why did Walt Disney choose to put these 5 things in Disneyland's original Frontierland? Well, the first one is a fairly obvious one you might have heard of before, and that is the Pendleton Woolen Mills shop. It was the largest sponsored store in Disneyland when it opened in 1955, and it existed simply because Walt Disney and his wife Lillian loved their wool products. In fact, the suit that you see Walt Disney wearing in the partner statue was actually made from Pendleton wool. Another early Frontierland feature was the Miniature Museum, which didn't actually open as a miniature museum. In 1955, it opened as the Davy Crockett Museum and later turned into an arcade, but the concept behind this exhibit was to display miniatures, which Walt Disney was terribly fond of, which is probably why miniature dioramas were one of the earliest concepts for Disneyland, called Disneylandia. Walt himself made this diorama based off of Granny's farm from So Dear to My Heart, though it was shelved when the Disneylandia project grew into something a little bit bigger. But speaking of Granny's farm, an actual farm was planned to be in Disneyland from the beginning, likely because of Walt's fondness for So Dear to My Heart, because it reminded him of his time growing up in Marceline, Missouri. The farm itself never actually became a thing, but we did get a miniature horse corral in roughly the same location in 1955. Next door to the corral was a blacksmith with a sign that read Williard P. Bounds, who was Lillian Disney's father. He worked as a blacksmith and a federal marshal on the Nez Perce Reservation in Lapwai, Idaho. This is also possibly why a marshal could be seen walking around in Frontierland, though in truth any Old West town was likely to have this character. Lastly, we have to talk about the covered wagons, because at first glance they seem like a staple of Western culture and an obvious choice for Disneyland. But why did Walt specifically want covered wagons? Well, it was no secret that Walt was enamored by his wife's big happy family, and so this attraction might also have a tie back to them as well, because her parents traveled on the Oregon Trail in a covered wagon to make the journey west. So Disneyland's covered wagons weren't just a link to their films or a tribute to the pioneering spirit of all Americans, but also a touching way to honor the history of Lillian Disney's trailblazing family.